Hi everyone, this is Maria Clark at Sweet Willow Designs and welcome to my studio. Today I have a project to make this really colorful Hamsa pendant. Let's get started. These are the materials that we'll use. I have these cookie cutters, these Hamsa hand cookie cutters, and you can use a paper template of course. I'm going to silk screen this, so I'm using a Sculpey Silk Screen. Got some clay and I'm using this DecoArt Americana Peacock Teal acrylic paint and my various tools, jewelry finding, and a squeegee. So I'm going to have two base pieces of clay, and they're rolled out to the number 3 setting, and one of them is textured because it'll form the back of the pendant. So I'll get my my first sheet laid out and prepared, because what I'm going to do is actually silk screen on this, and silk screening is so easy. I have another video that I'll link in the playlist that takes you through the Sculpey Silk Screening kit that is really a nice kit, and I think you'll enjoy it. So I've got my paint, and I'm going to apply a thin bead across the top of the silk screen and take the squeegee and just start to apply that paint, just sort of scraping it across and taking any of the excess paint from the squeegee and moving it around so that I have nice coverage through the silk screen. You don't have to press hard, but you do want to get a nice even coat of paint. So I'll just keep kind of just applying this until I think I have a nice good coat, and then I will peel off the silk screen. What a really nice look that is. Get your silk screen in the water right away though, so that that paint doesn't dry on it. If it does dry on it, you'll ruin the stencil. So I've got these cookie cutters, a couple of sizes, and I'm going to use a piece of plastic wrap and just put it over the sheet of clay so that I get a beveled edge to the pendant. And then I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here so you can see this. Just line this up where you think the pattern, it's a nice pattern on the pendant, because we're going to actually get several pendants out of this sheet of clay. So I'll get my cutter lined up. And again, don't forget, you can use a paper template. You don't have to have cutters like this. I just happen to think I'm going to make several of these, so I wanted to have a metal cutter. Get that lined up, and then just get that pressed down and cut through. Now with the plastic wrap, I noticed that it doesn't necessarily get a clean cut all the way through, so I'll get it cut as well as I can. It's good enough to actually separate from the surrounding clay, but I will take my cutter after the fact and just sort of reapply it a little bit so I get a nice cleaner cut. So I'm going to go ahead and get actually 4 main pendants, 2 of the larger size and then 2 of the smaller size, and I'll just position those to get the silk screen pattern that I like and get these cut out. And then once I get them cut, I can peel off that plastic wrap and just remove the excess clay. And you can see that it mostly comes off well, but here you can see what I was talking about where it doesn't cut all the way through. So once I get that out, I'll use the cookie cutter to cut through again just to get that little bit of edge off. And I'll use the rest of this clay to make some other types of beads. Then I'll smooth out the edges so that I don't want to sand, because I don't want to disturb the silk screening. So I'll just smooth the edges. I've got a couple of colors of clay here. So I've got this bright peacock teal, beautiful paint on the silk screen, and now I'm using just a pearl fuchsia, and we're going to give a few little pops of color. So just making a little small ball here that I'll place in these negative spaces on the feathers. And you can place these little beads of clay wherever you like. It's just up to whatever you think is gives a nice pattern. And I'll just go ahead and keep applying those. I am using a little 3/16 cutter just to get consistency, but you don't need to do that. You can certainly just roll a snake of clay and get fairly even pieces. So I'm going to fast forward this a little bit so that you can see what I'm doing and how I make the placement of the different colors of clay. but it's really the same technique of rolling a ball and placing it where you want to have a pop of color. So I've got my fuchsia on, and now I'm taking a bright pearl green and doing the same thing, making some little balls of clay and just getting those placed. One thing I did do, I initially was going to use the painted dots to place my beads, but you know what? It's not raw clay to raw clay, so it didn't really adhere well. So you'll see that I move them around a little bit to get the clay adhering to clay. And so that's something that you want to be aware of. The clay won't really stick to the paint. So, and then I'll just put a couple of beads of the fuchsia at the top where I'll have the bail. Now I'll press those down to adhere them. This is where I actually realized I had a problem with the placement, so you'll see I'm moving them around. And go ahead and get them pressed down just a little bit. And then I've got a ball stylus, and I will go ahead and make a divot in each one of these balls of clay, and it'll give it a really nice look. You know, the Hamsa is really an interesting symbol. It's used in quite a few different religions and is a sign of protection, also prosperity, health, love, that type of thing. So I think it would make a nice pendant. I am doing these because I have a craft show coming up. It'll be my first craft show, and I'm doing it with a few other YouTubers in the Colorado area. So I'm thinking that this might be a nice craft show item, little pendants like this. What do you guys think about that? Those of you that do craft shows, do you think that these are going to work out, or they sell at a craft show? Let me know in the comments below. I'd really appreciate hearing from you. So I'll just continue to get my pops of color. And here are the pieces before they go into the oven. And I'll get those in the oven and cure them for 60 minutes. Be sure to tent it. Once they're cool, I will varnish and cure at the manufacturer's temperature for another 20 minutes. And here's what they look like. This, I used two types of varnish on this because I wanted you to see how they look. This is a gloss varnish, and I use Varathane. And then the other second one is a matte finish, and it's also Varathane. And I gotta tell you, that Varathane matte is really, really nice. I'm not sure which of these I like better. I might actually like the gloss a little bit better, but I wanted to try out different looks. And then I'm just using a simple string type necklace finding. So now I'm going to make a hole for my jump ring bail, and I'm just using a hand drill, and getting that hole placed, going in through the back to make sure I have a nice clean opening. And then I've got this jump ring, and I'll just open up the jump ring, and it's really simple jump ring bail, and thread my pendant on the jump ring. And then I can use any kind of stringing material that I like. I'm going to try out several different types of stringing material to see which I think looks best. And close up that jump ring, and there you go. I think it looks really nice. It's got some really pretty pops of color, and that DecoArt's Americana paint on there is just gorgeous. It's a beautiful color. So these are the pieces that I made from the one sheet of clay, and I had a little bit of extra. I could still have made some beads, and these are the two main larger size pendants. I want to thank you all for joining me in my studio. I hope you enjoyed this Hamsa pendant project. Please let me know. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, leaving me a comment, giving me a thumbs up. I really appreciate hearing from you, and I appreciate your support. As always, thanks for joining me in my studio. Take care.